Elite Assembly. Step up and see flash, it's the ToyLeet crew. We're the kings of the game, yeah, the chosen few. From the shadows we rise with the rarest finds. Collect them, respect them, we're one of a kind. ToyLeet, ready the streets. Elite with the feats in this collectible feast. ToyLeet, never the street. When the heart of the beat, we're all playmates me. Check our stacks, our collection supreme. Limited editions, every collector's dream. We're the myths, we're the legends, with every drop. Taking over the block, we never stop. In the alleys where the echoes play. ToyLeet's the name, hear what we say. Rising, thriving, always diving. In our realm we're always diving. ToyLeet, bring the street, the lit ToyLeet. Setting the pace. With the snap of the case and a click of the lock. ToyLeet's on top and we're ready to rock. Collecting more than just toys, we're up. We're up. We're up. ToyLeet, ready the streets. Elite with the feats in this collectible feast. ToyLeet, now in the street. When the heart of the beat, we're all playmates me. We're the dream, we're the ToyLeet. Watch the flow, cause in this zone we never admit defeat. Come for the thrill, stay for the chase. ToyLeet's in the place, set in the pace.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
What's up, my man?
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Been a day, but
Good.
that's how they go.
I hear you, man. I hear you, dude. I hear a dragon pop this weekend. I heard it.
Pop is not. I think that's an understatement, dude. Jesus, that
Man,
dragon tore some shit up, man.
Yeah,
Almost
let's
5,000, right?
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit later in the weekly news. We'll cover that because
Yeah.
there's some things I want to point out, some things I had thought of, some, I guess Oz was right. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, man, it's an interesting week. You and I, we had a good board meeting or meeting of the minds, right? Last week after the show or another night, whatever night it was, and went for some hours talking about next steps and continuing to grow the ToyLeet. And I think you rebranded everything tonight, right? So it's now it's the ToyLeet channel, right? So
It's going to be officially the ToyLeet Network, but I haven't changed it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, the ToyLeet Network. So it'll be officially rebranded with the ToyLeet Network because we're going to be including other shows, more regular pre-recorded material. So I'm really excited about that. You and I were talking about some real cool concepts, I think, last week that we're bringing forward. You'll see a lot of rebranding in the slides today. Man, it looks cool. I think it looks cool.
I love it.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm looking around the room because I don't want to lie. I'm looking to see if I got anything else, and I don't think I did. I did sell a dragon this past weekend.
Yes, you
a
did.
dragonfly. Luckily, I was able to get most of the cover of the dragon myself, so that I could justify that absurdly ridiculous price.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a good way
I
to
tried
do
to
it for
win you
yourself.
one on a. What's that?
I said that's a good way to try to do it, though, right? Sell something, you.
Yeah, well, that
it wasn't your
I had a
intent
bunch of-
back when you got it, but I mean.
No, I fully intended on keeping it, but as you know, I'm shifting out of the military lines a little bit. I still keeping some stuff. Like I actually just went through the side room here because I'm still finishing up these shelves behind me and get my stands underneath all my figures because who am I to try to sell a product that I'm not putting my own stuff on, right? So
Right.
yeah, I still got a bunch of the classifieds, a bunch of Joes, and looking through. There's some stuff I'm moving. I had a ton of duplicates. I think I have like 10 Dusties because there was that super Dusty sale.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like I got like a customizer's dream bucket of those, and I got a couple extra original triggers and things like that I just bought for myself because I was gonna mod them and stuff because I thought they
Pop
were
and swap and everything
cool.
else for those, right?
Exactly. So yeah, but yeah, I should be getting the dragon at some point. And I saw Terrence scheduled a Legion's Dragon pick up your lizard in Jersey event. So yeah, some cool stuff going on there.
I guess there's going to be quite
But,
a few people going there, even if they're not picking up the dragon. They're just going to go for the meetup and stuff.
That's what I saw. I think that'll be really cool.
Thing.
Definitely had my eyes open over the weekend. We'll talk more about that when we get into Four Horsemen news and stuff. But yeah, man, I didn't get anything. How about yourself?
I got one thing this week.
Is that going to be the thing that we talk about for the thing?
That's going to be the thing.
Oh, so I mean, we should probably just talk about that right now.
God, if you have a weak stomach, you may stop right here. Anybody hungry?
So before I start, let me just preface this by saying thank you to Terrence's next toy. Terrence is doing some awesome stuff in the Mythic Legions community with his 1,000 swigs that he did last year, and helping out with all the dragon stuff and helping promote, Purple Gang and stuff and things like that. But he's also one of those guys that goes to a lot of cons and he never hesitates to help somebody out if they need to pick something up. So Terrence, thank you. I appreciate it. But Terrence got me the ToyLeet exclusive, optically compromised the Eraser figure, which, if anybody remembers, last year at Joe Fest, before Book 1 came out, they released exclusive Dracula and the Forgotten King in translucent red and blue. So this is the Eraser in translucent purple. It's called the optically compromised. And the reason is
Monster
that...
Force, right?
Yeah, it's Monster Force, Fresh Monkey Fiction Monster Force. The reason he's purple and called optically compromised is because, of course, he's the Invisible Man, which is why they call him the Eraser. He is a mercenary for the Forgotten King, and due to however they put them back together, the character known as the Donner Family Party is basically a bunch of the dead family sewn back together, and they have eyes that can see the Eraser, but he comes out in purple, but they can see him when he's invisible. So his power basically has no, they can still see him even if he's invisible. So guy's pretty cool. He comes with a M4 pistol and a knife. Well, actually 2 pistols and a knife and everything else. And I can't wait for the actual figure to get released. It's pretty badass. So it's definitely going up onto the Monster Force shelf. So it's definitely not a flusher.
That's good. That's good. Endless Fables over here. Brian said he should have picked it up while he was there. He sounds like he did not. That's cool. So we have a success, and I kind of wanted to jump into the ToyLeet or toilet segment a little early and quickly tonight, because I did want to take a step back from last week's. It's been a week. I crapped all over. I
was gonna ask you about this because
I crapped all over it.
Let me preface what you're gonna say real quick. I was watching Robo's review of it today, and the first thing that he said was that it looked very thin, looking down at it from the face to the back. That was the first thing he said. That it looks great, but it is a little thin. It looks thin, but mostly because in the same kind of thing you said, where you're used to the mounts or the animals being beefier, and just having that presence, right? And that was the first thing he said. I was like, and he was like, but after I got playing with it, he's like, it really grew on me. So I was going to ask you tonight if you had changed your mind yet.
Yeah, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm going to keep it. I had considered it. I actually immediately after the show or the day after reached out to Brick and was like, hey dude, you want to buy this thing? And he's like, I'm good right now. I got a lot of stuff coming in, but I was thinking about it, listing it. I'm going to keep it. And actually, I actually want to commend Brick, because he actually sent me links based on my feedback to those ones that are on 5K toys, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I'm recanting my toilet flusher. While I still believe it is too thin for what it visually looked like in all of the shots, and it is not quite what I wanted, I don't think is deserving of a toilet chucker, like by any sense. Would it go on my shelf? No. Would I use it in some dioramas and some scenes and such? Absolutely. But he shared those 5K ones with me, and I honestly think I was partially biased because I saw all of that at the same time, and I had like a misconception of some of the articulation this should have had, that broadness with the shoulders and stuff, and being able to kind of turn it in different ways. So I do want to kind of call that back and not dog Creative Studios
were
so
the
bad.
ones from 5K the ones that we were looking at that had the bigger shoulders and everything?
Yeah.
I looked at all those on the same slideshow at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. And, Brick sent me the pictures and I started looking at them again. And there's this, Furry Toys has got one where it's definitely broader, like up top on the shoulders, and like the arms have much more like right to left articulation. They've got more joint manipulation in the mid range of it. So I definitely, I felt a little bad. So I definitely wanted to bring it back.
So you plunged it out of the toilet.
Yeah, I went toilet fishing, as I refer to it.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm recanting that toilet banger for that one. So that's why I wanted to jump into that a little early tonight. But before we go to the chat real quick, and I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share thing. Yes, he toy shamed me, as we refer to it here on the ToyLeet network. You toy shamed me, Brick, and in 2025 there is no toy shaming. You horrible individual, you. I'm gonna pick on Brick a little later, so I'm gonna take it soft on him right now. That said, for those that are first-time viewers, we appreciate you. We appreciate you listening in to Ed and I. He's Ed, aka Axion Figs. I'm the Mr. Wonderful, Plastic Daddy or Plastic Diddy himself, Travis. We get together weekly as much as possible, and we chat about our plastic passion, the toys, and toy adjacent. We focus on independent toy lines. We don't talk about your Hasbros and your Mattels. I mean, we'll cover some things if we got pickups and things, but we don't dive into that news. Plenty of other folks that can focus on I saw Fable's message here, but plenty of things you guys can other streams like A Punk with Toys on Monday nights. You can check in and find out more of the mainstream toy lines. We really do like to focus on those guys that are in the community, trying to build something. Some people living the dream that we hope to live one day, or wish we could have, or whatever, in support in some ways. And actually now with these tariffs and stuff, and not getting political, just talking the situation, it's even more important that we support those independent toy lines and get as much awareness to them as possible to help keep those alive. Because as we'll talk a little later in one of the news items, there's some that are already canceling. So, and the ones that are kind of sitting back and waiting and watching, fingers crossed, we get to some resolution here for those guys. Helidope did a really good show on it Sunday night talking about that.
Anybody that wants to talk about or hear about the tariffs and how it's affecting some of the toy companies and stuff, Ted and Aaron on the Helidope channel on Sunday night at 9:00 did a really good live stream and had lots of good facts along with some good personal commentary. Without all the hype and all the craziness, and the chat was very supportive and all that too. So if you're looking to know more about the tariffs and you haven't checked out the Helidope stream from Sunday night, I definitely recommend that one for reality stuff, right? Not the news.
I know there was a lot of people. And sorry, Ed, go ahead.
Not the news hype and all the other things like that. It's these guys know it and live it every day, running the toy store, how it's going to affect us for real. So
exactly, and I think you said it great. Like they reported news. There was no angle. There was just kind of how it's impacting the consumers and even the small retailers or even large retailers. So definitely worth a listen if you haven't listened to it. Normally they just kind of are boring. I don't really pay attention to. No, I kid. Those guys are awesome. It's really a good show to check out. I know myself, I missed most of it live because I was chasing free dragons. So I didn't get a chance to tune in live, but I listened to the whole thing on yesterday while I was getting some stuff done, and a wonderful show. And I got to give kudos to Ed to Ted and Aaron on that intro video that they cut together. That was cool. I missed that the first round.
I got to tell everybody this story real quick. So I'm there,
yes, sir, doing
my modding on the Helidope stream. I get a text from Travis. Check Instagram. And then there's another text right now. I was like, holy shit, I figure something's up, right? So I pop over to Instagram. It's like they're giving away a dragon on Just Shelve It. I was like, all right. So Luke was sitting out at the kitchen table doing some painting, and I took on my phone. I was like, you watch this and just type in the chat whatever hashtag they put. So I had him on I had him on my one phone doing that, and I had my other phone doing the modding. He's like, how long do I have to do this? I was like, until they're done.
I was trying to get you the dragon, Ed. I was trying, man. I didn't succeed.
Yeah.
One of our guys that jumps in here, and on other streams,
Right,
actually
Darren.
won.
Yep, Darren.
Yeah, 3-star draw. Yep. So that said, we focus on independent toys, promote those guys, people in the community and such. But Ed, let's hit up the chat and check who's here.
Yeah, we got quite a few people popping in for us. We got Rollkeeper, who's first tonight. Hello. Well, hello there. And Kenzo's Creation is in the house, as he says on his live stream on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock on his channel. I think it's 9 Eastern anyway. And we got Menhoza. What's up, Menhoza? And Cobweb Collector, the beautiful Cobweb Collector, saying, sup, fellas? And Brian, Endless Fables, is here, who posted a whole bunch of cool pictures over this past week from his trip to Toylanta over the last weekend. And we got the Retro Toy Princess, Allison, with us. Greetings, Allison. Brick, as we pull up one of his comments already, but Brick is in the house. And we are now ToyTube official, at least halfway there, because Nolan is here. What's up, Nolan? And we got Tiffany from the Vaz Zone. How you doing, Tiffany? And Brick says, oh man, the ToyLeet Takeover Network channel. Nice. Liking that. Thank you for the support, Brick. And I had to laugh at this comment. Brick says, isn't optically compromised a euphemism for ugly or hard on the eyes? That feels kind of mean. That's why he's invisible. And Brian pointing out to you that most cats are thin except for the Hellcat, or Heathcliff rather, not in Garfield.
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of chubby cats.
There's some fat cats. Well, cats in the wild are usually thin. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Domesticated cats are usually not so thin. And the man himself, who we just talked about, half of the Hella Dope boys, is Ted Darklaw's in the house. G.I. Jetman's here. What's up, G.I. Jetman? And Jeff from Skunkworks saying, yo. And I shared this with Ted and Aaron earlier that Jeff was really impressed with how well Ted and Aaron did with the tariffs. So I shared that with them. And they're pretty happy that it's, their positive way of putting that message out there is, getting out there without it being all doom and gloom and everything else. So
Exactly.
Jeff saying that was good, meaning the Hella Dope thing. And my buddy Matt's here. What's up, Matt? Ahoy. Brooke said, I was typing the hashtag while I was still live on the stream.
That explains why I saw him post it like 10 times for the same one, because he wasn't sure if it was going through.
Yeah, Jeff, I never win any contest either. I just like to enter, but I win at life too. It's our bond, buddy. It's our bond. We win at life. And then there's this guy.
Comes the money.
Here we go.
Money
talk.
Here comes the money. Money.
And TD3 Trooper, otherwise known as Troy Dotson, is in the house. What's up, my man? And that is it for the chat, brother.
Awesome, dude. Let's roll. We'll go right on into the slides and stuff, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, for those tuning in, we did the ToyLeet or toilet segment where we talk about whether it goes on the shelf or in the toilet. We always talk the news. We keep in touch with the chat. We talk about what we're picked up. We'll start talking about what we're watching next week. Some things that we're picking up on the YouTube streams and whatnot. Dive into those a little bit more. But we're going to jump into our slides here and a presentation. Talk a little bit more about that and how that all plays into to the main topic tonight. ToyLeet Takeover is going to be Board Games Boom. We're going to talk about kind of how tabletop gaming has seen, in my opinion, or at least the way I saw a pretty big resurgence. When I talk about tabletop, I'm talking it could be Risk, it could be Catan, it could be Dungeons and Dragons, where it brings people to a center table where they're enjoying themselves and playing games together. So we'll talk about that in the main topic tonight.
I have to tell you, every time I see this picture, all I can think of is you screaming, me screaming, I sank your battleship, and you going, son of a bitch.
Awesome. So that's awesome. So that's the main topic tonight. That, and again, we wait till the end. A little like our buddy Punk, we'll wait till the end to do it, but we don't take 3 hours to get there. We'll be there in 10 to 20 minutes, give or take, depending on how deep we dive into the next few pieces. So the first thing up is this.
By the creek where the water flows, we're shouting out to those who know. Spreading joy, sharing love, ToyLeet fam, you rise above. Shout out from the crick, you're the best.
And before you go into it, Ed, before you call it out, I love this artwork. I think it looks cool. So shout out from the crick. It's originated, for those first-time viewers, it's pulled in directly from the origination of this channel, where Ed and his son would talk about someone doing something cool in the community, always championing some people doing something. It could be a creator, it could be a YouTuber, it could be a toy manufacturer, it could be just somebody doing something cool, picking something up and shipping it. It could be anything, sharing stuff, promoting things. But for this week, Ed, do you want to go ahead and call it out?
Hell yeah, I'll call it out. This week's shout out from the crick is Just Shelve It. This is a show that's on the Just Shelve It channel. Jesse and Curtis, who are very much into mythic legions, cosmic legions, and the Four Horsemen stuff primarily, but they do some other things. Curtis has his own channel, which is Art by Ackerman, where he does a lot of customizing, and he gives away a lot of great tips. So if you're into customizing or learning how to paint, things like that, Curtis on Art by Ackerman is another one to watch. But Sunday night, they did a 24-hour stream to, well, I shouldn't say one stream. It was multiple streams, but they did a 24-hour telethon to end off the Dragon campaign. So they started at 11 o'clock on the Clubhouse on Oz's channel, and then they rolled right on through until Just Shelve It on Sunday night. The reason we're calling out Just Shelve It is because not only is the Just Shelve It guys that usually are on there really cool guys, Curtis and Jesse, like every week they're showing off, promoting guys in the community. They grab a bunch of pictures that they saw on Instagram through the week and just point out like the ones that they really liked and what they liked about it, and they do a good job of not just always grabbing the same people, because like if you were always grabbing, 1/6 shooter Trevor's, images and Emerald Lake's, images, I mean, they get kind of boring always promoting the same guys. Now, those guys' pictures just speak for themselves, so they don't need any help getting seen, right? I mean, those guys are just seen by millions of people. So Jesse and them and Curtis, they grab other people's pictures that they saw and just kind of pop them up and show them off and talk about how cool they are, what they really liked about them. So they're always promoting people in the community. So Sunday night, they get on their stream. People start donating money because the studio is giving away one dragon. And the Cabal people wanted to give away more dragons. So they just started sending in super chats to put towards more dragons.
So Ed, let me just jump in there. Let me just jump in there for a second. So actually, before, at least from my understanding, because I was watching it, before Jeremy and the studio came on and said they were going to give one away, my understanding is that the hosts, I can't remember the name, maybe it was Jesse, had started talking about pitching in $300 or some number, and then others on the show that were streaming were like, I'll throw some money and we'll get somebody a dragon. And then it was just little by little, and then everyone in the chat started pumping money towards it, and then Jeremy jumped in, and out of nowhere he's just like, oh, and I'm going to do an all-in, and from the studio we're going to do one all-in, and we're going to donate it to somebody for this raffle, like to give away. So that happened, and then because people just kept piling money in, it went from the one that the studio was doing, plus the one that the streamers were agreeing to do, to the point where it ended up, from my understanding, I believe they gave away 4 of them.
Yeah, they gave away 2 all-ins and then 2 basic dragons.
Yeah, and plus, 2 basic dragons.
Plus, what's the guy that did the guy that does the well? And then
it's Carver's Customs or something.
Carver's Customs did the base that he's a diorama base for the dragon that he gave away with the first all-in that went with the studio. And I can't think of the guy that does the wells. If anybody's in the chat knows the guy that's in the Cabal that does all the wells and the fountains and stuff, he gave away a well with the first all-in.
Tables.
Yeah.
And there was some tables that went away too, but like that was why I suggested these guys, not because they gave it away, but because what it showed me is that community is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Just the way like it just came all together, and it truly just seemed natural and like genuine. It didn't seem gimmicky or
Yeah.
let me just build my subscriber counts up or anything like that. It just was like this natural thing that just everybody was so like, let's do this. And it was like a telethon thing where they were like, let's see how many dragons we can put in those unfortunate, like those people who don't have the chance to get one. And I believe somebody won one that maybe had already purchased one or
Yes.
didn't want
Yep.
it, and
No,
they
they
gave
had
it
already
away.
purchased one.
He's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm giving mine to this person.
Yeah.
Like before it was even like down in the chat, like that person had already said, yeah, I want you to
That's
give
the
my
other cool
winnings to
thing.
this
Jesse
person.
and Curtis both always said, right? If you already bought a dragon, please, if you win one, try to give it to someone that wanted one that couldn't afford it or couldn't, make it, happen
Exactly.
time. So yeah, that was a really cool thing. Those guys are always really good. If you spend enough time on the clubhouse, you see a lot of things where you can. Yeah, Endless Fables is right. It was Brian Carr
Yep.
that won and ended up donating
Yep.
it to a friend. Like Terrence, right? Terrence spent 24 hours with his girlfriend. I can't think of her name at this time, and I apologize. Created a Dragon Telethon banner, had a telephone that they were pretending to answer, and just did like the actual telethon thing, or reporting in where they were at and stats and stuff like that, how many calls they were getting, and just made a real fun thing of it. Like I said, Terrence is really big into that stuff. But I've seen like Curtis, Oz and Curtis did some kind of trade or bought something, and Curtis always throws in extra stuff, just like that. The one person you talk, yes, thanks, Brick. It's Gina. That's her name. I was thinking Mary, but I knew that wasn't right. Gina's Terrence's girlfriend, but they always just throw in extra stuff or try to make it a little more, not just, oh yeah, here you bought this, this figure from you. They'll throw the figure in there and throw an extra head in there that they customized or something like that. So they're just a very, giving community. Are there some, bad people in there? You're going to find them everywhere you go.
I'm sure.
For the most part, that community is really a fan driven, for the fans, by the fans type of community. And it's pretty wild to see.
Yeah, like at times I've always felt like it was. I mean, like it seemed fake. It seemed like something you'd see on a TV show and you were watching. You're like, okay, so where is it all really? Like,
Yeah.
where's the creepiness? Because but they're all just like, it was just genuine and like the
Yep.
people are cool. And I've not had it like really enticed me to want to make sure that I make it to Legion's Con this year because it just seems like there's so many cool people there. And like what I saw on Sunday, like I even said it in the comment to it. I was like, I didn't win anything. But seeing how that community came together and being around all those people, we're all winning as it is.
Yep.
So like, if you're a part of that, you're already winning. So it doesn't even matter. So kudos
Plus,
to you guys.
Like, you're never going to see Hasbro, Mattel, Super 7, give away a Kickstarter GoFundMe thing like their Dragonfly or the Catzler or something like that.
I mean, we know NECA's not going to do it,
right.
Not on purpose at least.
Right. So, I mean, like for Jeremy and the Four Horsemen guys to come in and say, we're going to do it all in, not just the dragon, the all in Epic Wings, Epic, Fire Breath with all 5 of the exclusive figures. I mean, that is just, not only is the community great, the actual community that the company that community really supports, they go back and forth.
Absolutely.
They support each other,
Absolutely. 100%. So yeah, the reason we wanted to champion these guys is because what they did. And I know it wasn't just them. Oz. Then there was a ton of there was streams I hadn't subscribed to. Joe G was there, I think, the entire time.
Yep.
Jumping from stream channel to channel, and like just what they all did collectively. I'm giving these guys I'm giving these guys all the credit right now. But so many people went into it and did so much. But what I saw them do in that final hours as they were closing that out, and just kind of how the natural growth of it, and just like that give back attitude and what
not only
positive
that,
experience
it was so cool. Jesse and Curtis are very, like I said, they show off people's work all the time, on their regular show. And, they're always very kind and always, like I said, Curtis is giving away awesome, customizing tips every week on his show, right? I mean, he doesn't have to do that, but he wants to share his, and he just started customizing a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it's not like he's, some kind of expert. He just says, hey, I learned it, so let me help, so.
Absolutely.
Good guys, good
Awesome.
stuff.
Good deal. Yeah. So if you aren't following them, check them out. Give them a like, a subscribe. I think they just hit 1,000 on Sunday.
Yep.
But just generally cool people and definitely worth the check out. If you haven't seen them on, I know some of them I've seen on Oz's channel for the clubhouse. So good group of people. Check them out. Bring up next.
If I'm gonna do this, I'll need my news team at my side.
So going into the weekly news, right? This is one of our mainstay topics. We do this all the time. It's a little bit lighter this week, but the first one, I'm going to target our boy Brick here over at Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. Not much of an update recently, but we did get an update. Brick issued an apology, so I wanted to share with everybody he did issue an apology for the lack of Kickstarter updates. He acknowledged the delay that has been in place since I think sometime in December, and he let us know he would be getting another real update done shortly. That was a week ago. Love you, Brick. All jokes. But that said, I don't think there was much to update on as they were working on things recently. But I did want to call out that they still have some sales going on their in-stock items. Like these heads, I think, are like under $4 for a 3-pack. I don't think you can get 3 printed heads that aren't even painted that look at, like at that price. And these are great. I have all of them. Much love, Brick. Much love. So they have these on sale. Their weapons packs are on sale. I think most of their figures from the earlier releases are relatively on sale too.
Firing back. Shots fired.
And that's good, people. I'm out. No. Hey, thanks, Kenzo. Much love there. That's a good one right there. Fair enough. We should just leave that one up for a little while.
They don't pay him enough.
That one stings. Yeah. Damn, I try to get Brick with one time. No. But yeah, so go check out Animal Wars of the Kingdom.
Back up, man. He's not even standing alone.
Yeah, I realize that Brick's got a posse now. I'm not even going after that one. So Brick, you're safe now, bud. But yeah, there's some sales over on the Spiro site.
Yeah, AWOC head packs are great for customizing and changing up the looks of especially the ancients. The basic figures. You get a couple of head packs. Yep.
No, they're cool, and you can get the all weapons, and I think some of the bucks are on sale too. Some of them, the normal ones. I think I know they don't have Pale in stock, but like they're normally, I think they were like 30 something a piece. I think they're down in the 24 range right now. So you want to go check those.
Yeah, weren't they originally $34.99 or something like that? I think.
I think they were like $35 roughly.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range. I might be thinking 38 for the Savage stuff. But yeah. So go check that out. Quick update from Brutal Realms. They showed off a sample here of General Grimskull. So they showed that off, one of the production render, and they're hoping to have a factory production soon. Obviously, they've had the factory samples for Cronin, Crowman, Jagan. They arrived. They looked great from the sounds of it. They need some minor adjustments before the final approval. And then the team also did update because this is a team that said they're going to try to get something out this year. They want to start shipping stuff for the summer. And one of the things I thought was interesting is they did champion or speak to monitoring the tariff situation very closely so they could stay on track. I imagine unless something drastically different changes here, these would be one of the groups that's going to maybe slow roll some things probably because I can't imagine they would want to try to fight with the tariffs on this stuff right now.
Yeah. Especially considering
this looks cool.
Tomorrow, I think it's going to like 105% on stuff coming out of China. So
what is Endless Fables talking about? Skull and Bones, Pirate 112?
Wait a minute. I just told you the other day about how there's not enough Cowboys and Pirate stuff for 112.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Endless Fables?
Send us some links. Send us some links on Instagram, dude. I want to pull this up.
Yeah.
I want to look at this. I may not report on it this week, but yeah, no, that's cool. Sorry, Ed. You're screwed, man.
I'm not.
You're going to kill your wallet.
It costs me more to make my Cowboys that I've been building than it does just to buy one. So.
Oh man.
Oh,
Endless
something he
Tables, you gotta
saw in
send us some stuff.
Toylanta. Okay,
Gotcha.
nice.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So
Well, I know Brian took a bunch of pictures, so if you got a sneaky peek pictures, shoot it to me and
yeah,
Travis. We'll keep it on the down low if we need to.
absolutely. Creative Beast Studios, I already gave them their flowers tonight and pulled back on my giving them crap on their stuff, but they had some posts up there today or yesterday. Cyberzoic Wave B test shots, they were on display in Toylanta a week or two ago. Giving fans a look at what's coming next.
Thanos and Brick both got their Frost Dragon or whatever the hell that dragon is from the Creative Beast Studios, and they're both. I know Brick didn't have much time with it, but I know Thanos was really playing with it and showing it off Saturday night and really loves it. So
Oh, cool. Good
it's
deal.
not as big as Bayeth, but it's still an awesome dragon. So
That's I figured. I figured it'd be relatively thin, but that's 1/18th scale. It's for the 1/18th,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's going to be, if it's anything like this and it's 1/18th scale, I don't think it'll be too bad.
Yeah.
They did show this, which you can see is, I believe it's the pterodactyl armor, being converted for the Dilophosaurus.
Yeah.
So I think
That's
what
one
they
thing
were
I
showing
do like
here.
about Creative Beast Studios is they're doing like museum quality pieces for like the dinosaurs and stuff, but then they're also doing this Mesozoic thing where it's kind of like the Dragon Riders cartoon
Yep.
back in the 80s.
Yeah. I remember that. That's cool.
What? He's got a prototype sitting. It's not Skull and Bones. Ah.
Oh man, we're live. We're real. We got Fatrid.
We got Fatrid here. What's up, Fatrid? Oh, Fatrid, as Ted says.
Then we have Four Horsemen Studios. So we're gonna dive in a little bit more into Four Horsemen. Obviously, Bayether, campaign closed on Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. It was a success, and I say this because I originally, when I saw it, the price point, kind of knowing how big the community is, I thought they'd hit about 2,500. That's kind of where I thought they were going to land. And then I want to say a week or two. So I said that, and Oz said to me, I think they're going to hit 3,000 or so. I think further than that's going to be hard. I think they'll hit 3,000. And about a week and a half ago, I said to him, I think, actually, I'm going to go to my chat with him, and I'm going to actually say my exact quote, because I definitely put my foot in my mouth for sure.
So while you're saying that, I know,
that.
Go ahead and look that up. Trevor on Saturday night said that his prediction before that he was holding was 4240. And I can't remember who else put it in there. Maybe Greg the Brute Scale. His guess was 4420. So those were the two guesses that I heard Saturday night at 11 o'clock, roughly.
Okay. So I sent a message to
awesome.
him back in. I sent him a message back. I don't know. It was right after the pricings and stuff or whatever had been announced, and they were announcing when it was going to go on sale and everything, right? And I said, I think they're going to hit up near 3,000 in units. Just my guess. And then I said to him on the 28th of March, I said, just a couple weekends left. I think my prediction might have been a bit too high.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I figure they're at this route, they might hit 2,800. And he goes, yeah, next weekend, we're doing a 24-hour push, and hopefully that helps. So,
yeah, they ended at what? Just shy of 5K, right?
So the final numbers for Bayether was 4,962.
Yeah.
The Fire Breath set was 4,035. And the Epic Wings, as I think everyone, including ourselves, knew, would land somewhere, significantly lower than both of those. And it was about 2924. But regardless, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge success. I mean, their target, their stretch goal was 4,000. Obviously, they opened up some additional things like Bayether's Fury, which I know there was a little bit of hesitancy at first on that in the chats and stuff. And then others were like, oh, that's great. And then others were like, I'm not sure. I think I like it now, but I think the color scheme would have been cooler if they stuck to the green color scheme of the other one, of the first, the first
Benagar.
Yes, Benagar. But either way, you know, they hit the numbers and it was tremendous, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
The
24
bad
hour
part
stream
is
definitely
that
helped.
they basically said that this dude is like army builder, right? I mean, I don't know who's army building yet, you know, $1,000 a day.
I mean,
More
from
power
what
to you.
from what some people were saying, they were army building this. I
Yeah.
think somebody has like 9, like somebody had 9. I'd be curious, like if the Four Horsemen would release a number, like, can you tell me the most one person bought? Like, you know, just don't tell us who, just give us a published number, like, you
That'd
know,
be
like
interesting to
what was
know
the
who bought,
most?
what was the highest number bought by a single buyer.
Exactly. So, no, I mean, it's really cool. That leads me to the next screen
Well, I
here,
know a
which was
lot of
posted to.
people, you know, were buying the dragon, and they were planning on buying, you know, they bought 2 of them, planning on selling off the figures and basically making the money back for the dragon, right? Because it's going to be pretty close. It's, you know, it's a good investment if you want 2 dragons and only one set of figures, or vice
If I was, I
versa.
mean, we know there's going to be under 5,000. We know there's going to be under 5,000 of those figures, under 5,000 of the dragons. So we know you have one of 5,000 roughly, right?
Yep,
They say they're not making the
exactly.
extras, but I have to assume that they're going to run a number of 5,000. They're going to, I mean,
I'm going to guess they're going to
absurd.
go an even 5,000, maybe even 5,500. It'll help with their MOQ, and they got to have some extra parts in there for defects or anything that happens, you know.
Something. I mean, maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Maybe they don't. I would think if something was broken or whatever, replacement, things like that, maybe
Yeah.
they would, you know, but maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like a weird number to finish on. I feel like they're going to bump it out a little bit.
Yeah, I
But
don't know how
again,
much they go over that just because of the storage space those things are going to take up, but I can see them going to an even, you know, 5K for the dragon, you know, 3K or whatever for the, you know, the other ones, or whatever the next 1,000 pieces, right? I mean,
yeah. And I mean, they could do stuff like where they do like a raffle or something at Legion's Con, you know, where you can buy a raffle ticket for X number of dollars and sell certain
yeah,
amount and, you know, give one away each day based on, you know, I mean, and, you know, still make their money back. And
yep.
I mean, I feel like people wouldn't be crapping on that. But again, they promised it would never be done and they wouldn't sell them. You never have another chance. So maybe I'm wrong.
I don't
I
think
don't
you'll
know.
see them being sold anywhere. I think they'll just
I
have
sure hope
a
not.
few extra for defects or anything that happens to happen, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think. Somebody's ready to retire, and all of a sudden they have a bunch of warehouse finds, and they unload them real quick on their way out.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah. So one thing I will say is that campaign, that 24-hour campaign, that thing was awesome, and definitely helped push it over the. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
it definitely pushed it over.
That
So a
drove,
lot of
I mean,
FOMO.
I think a lot of people were waiting to the end anyway, just for financial reasons, because it's all by, you know, to pay up front, or, you know, you had some options like pay in 4, but I mean, still $250 every 2 weeks is still a hefty chunk of change for people, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people waited the last minute, but I think the 24-hour final, you know, telethon really helped push it over. What's
Oh,
Barbara saying there?
absolutely. Just the dragon is awesome, but I'm saving up the Monster Force pre-orders instead. Hopefully, Four Horsemen will offer the dragon in a different color scheme later on. I'm sure they will use the molds. I assume that they will try to find a way to reuse portions of the mold, but I do not think you'll find that configuration ever
Yeah,
again.
they've already promised basically 4 more dragons in different sizes and different flavors. So parts of the mold will probably be reused, like claws and things like that, wings maybe, but you won't see another Baethier full-on redo.
Right.
But I'm in the same boat, Jim. I saved going for the dragon because I have a chunk of change coming real soon when the next Monster Force book lands.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. So then the next one here, still on the wherever my remote mouse went, still on Four Horsemen. They posted a screen. We saw this same thing. It's been posting around since G-Con when they announced the dragon. You know, it's, for me, this is huge because this is the mythos, this is the lore. You know, they talked about, you know, for a decade, you know, everyone focused on that central continent, which is the most visible piece in this image, and how, you know, that heroic kingdoms around that. But now, obviously, with Baether and all of that opening up, it's obviously shown this more, this larger world that, you know, others didn't realize existed. You know, and they hinted towards new lands, which we know new lands, right? That's all visible in some shaded areas there. But they talked about factions, new races, and many more stories are on the horizon. You know, so the newly revealed regions, they're still shrouded in a ton of mystery. We don't know much. But as the new story arc unfolds, the world of the mythos will grow dramatically. So I'm extremely excited for this.
Yeah, they really have to start expanding into new lands and new races, and not that they've reused. You know, I mean, they've reused a lot of pieces, but you know, they've done a lot of barbarians, a lot of knights, a lot of dwarves. You know, all the main typical fantasy characters you see, right? And it was cool to see like the last couple waves where they're starting to expand some new, types of armor where they're getting more, Persian influences. And then like they had the snake guy in the last retailer wave, and the snake dudes that are, kind of Aztec looking, and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's really cool to see him start expanding it. And it's not that it's needed to keep that line going, but it's just really nice additions to have, all the different looks and the different appearances and stuff. So
I was looking to see if I had it handy, but one of the things for me is lore, right? I'm hugely passionate about it. I love comics. I mean, some of my most recent pickups were comics, Conan and, Animals of the Kingdom. These are the things that I enjoy, right? So, like, for me, the toys and the lore is huge. I prefer graphic novels. I mean, I read books, but more often than not, when I read a book, it's like a self-help book. It's something like that. But from pleasure reading, it's the graphic novels and such and comics that I really enjoy. So for me, I would love for them to get one of the artists out there that's done like the Wheel of Time. They took the books. I've read the books. I've listened to the audiobooks, and I've also read the graphic novels. And they've done a great job with the graphic novels, taking you through those different books with like 5 or 6 kind of like thick graphic novels to cover a complete book within the Wheel of Time. If they could get a hold of one of those artists or someone like that and start putting together some of those I feel like it would be huge. I feel like we're all so nerdy and we would love that stuff. So
real quick, night Tiffany, thank you for coming in and watching for a while. Appreciate it. Just to go back to what you're saying about the lore, Largo posed this question: is there somewhere to go to read all the Mythic Legion's lore? And Thanos says the Source Horseman, and there's a few articles out there that help talk about the lore. So and if anybody's wondering, that's why when I show off a figure, I always give Travis the lore, because I can show the figure off and he's like, that's cool. As soon as I tell him the lore, he starts drooling, his eyes get all 8-year-old on a Christmas
I love
morning.
stories, man. Love stories. This one right here, I think Thatcher's got me right here. He says, I got a story for you. So what's the story? I'll sit here and wait. No. That said, a lot of cool stuff coming from Four Horsemen, whether it be
there's another thing that ties right into tonight. They got the game coming out that's like Dungeons and Dragons based that will cover probably go into depth on some of the lore also. So
So from there we go from Horsemen, we're going to jump into Fresh Monkey Fiction. I didn't have a ton of updates here. I don't know if I missed any there, Ed. The one big one for me was this, which again we'll talk about just briefly. We're not going to dive in heavy on the tariffs, but as we all kind of predicted, folks have been saying it. The Hella Dope boys over there on Sunday night, they already talked about this. It's the Long Box Heroes Kickstarter has officially been canceled for their wave 2 because of the new tariffs, the 50% tariffs from China. They couldn't justify $40 per unit for backers. So despite securing the licenses and putting a significant development work already, financial uncertainty made for moving forward too risky under the current conditions. So, Bill and Jason, recognize it as a setback right now, but are committed to finding future path for figures. Hopefully some of the stuff that Hella Dope talked about on Sunday night comes to fruition and maybe can ease the burden for this so we can keep these guys alive.
The Long Box Heroes, there wasn't a huge fan base. I don't want to say that it was a small fan base, but it wasn't out there like Valiverse or Classified or Mythic Legions, right? I mean, they're smaller figures. They're built on the old style, right? That's the whole aesthetic of them, right? They're kind of like the 5 POA.
Like 5 points of articulation, right?
5 POA type figures, right? But they have a cool cast of licenses. They got Rocket Man and, what the hell's it? I can't think of his name now, but a bunch of other different, like, old comic book characters that, are cool to see all together. And, so hopefully they can come back out with it. They had I think they had Tarzan, and Grendel was the one guy's name I was trying to think of. So they have a bunch of cool characters, and it was a cool line, but it wasn't super popular. So I'm guessing that even though the Kickstarter was funding, it probably was going, like you said, you can't charge $40 for a 5 POA, 4-inch figure or whatever they are, right? I mean, that's ludicrous to ask collectors to do.
Yeah. I recognize. I respect their decision to, especially if they've spent some money already, obviously securing licensing and such, to be able to do this and then take a step back and recognize that right now is not the time, to squeeze the fans, right? And I mean, they weren't going to. It wasn't their fault for it, but recognizing that they know that their 5 POA product is probably not the price point they need it to be in that space. So
yeah, and to chime in on this, Largo, I think Fresh Monkey Fiction, with Bill being part of the Big Bad Workshop now, is definitely going to help Fresh Monkey Fiction with the toy lines they're doing. Eagle Force is successful. Monster Force is a huge success for them. I'm sure that their Agent Monkeys, whatever the hell they're calling that,
Agent,
that line,
yeah,
the Monkey Dudes, and then they got the Crimson Moon and the Soldiers of Fortune line. Those are all going to be very successful because all those parts for their 6-inch figures are interchangeable and swap amongst all the figures. I mean, all the heads and the wrists will go together. So I don't think, now that they're teamed up exclusively with Big Bad Workshop, I don't think they're going to have a problem. This tariff thing, not like Travis said, not to go into it, it's not going to affect Big Bad hardly at all. I mean, they carry so much stuff and have so many different things going on that, they'll have to raise some prices because they're going to get their prices raised, but it's not going to hurt them any.
Yep. Awesome. So going into the next one here. This is a new one. El Dragoon. I saw this the other day. It's coming soon. I have an idea of when they're going to be announcing whatever fundraising program, crowdfunding approach they're going to take. But I'm not going to release those details as I don't know that I'm allowed to. As I've talked to some of the creators, I don't know if they've made it publicly knowledgeable. I didn't see it on the site, so I'm going to hold off. But the creators, they're going to be, I already talked to one of them, and they've agreed to come on the show in the coming weeks. So working out the date with them right now. So Ed and you and I will talk after about what looks good on our calendar. But we'll be getting them on to talk a little bit about what this is and also chastise them for not reaching out to a former pro wrestler like myself to help consult on this, as I think that this is a really cool idea. And while I'm not a lucha libre expert, I am a pro wrestling fan, and having been part of pro wrestling at one time, I thought it would be cool. So looking forward to talking to the creators over there. Mega J Retro is one of them that I'm familiar with. There's a couple others that I'm not as close to. But I've already talked to Mega J, and we'll be having them come on soon, which I'm very excited for because my passion of wrestling combined with toys. So this is not just a comic that they teased on the slides and such, but it's also a toy. I don't know if it's going to be one toy or a couple or an odd here and there, but we'll get more information as it comes along, and I'll definitely be keeping this one close to us. Danny Green collects. Thank you. Yeah, that's the other guy. And then
Brian did send us information on the Skull and Bones, so we'll check that out. There's some videos and stuff, so we can check it out and talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll chat about that a little next week for sure.
So, yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
And then the next one is Patriot Force. Just kind of going to breeze over this one relatively quickly. Initial Kickstarter is going to be 4 figures that you can see here on screen. You can go out and check out their Instagram for Patriot Force and take a look. The Kickstarter is still launching May 30th. And how all that stuff's going to be done. They're going to go ahead and do that on May 30th. They do mention that once the campaign is funded, fans within the Kickstarter, they already have 10 to 12 stretch goals planned and ready to roll out with that Kickstarter launch. Again, May 30th. I'm interested on this one because, again, so much is unknown. This is a first time coming together. Not being critical of these guys by any means. I'm rooting for them. I really think it's a cool idea. Real life heroes from the U.S. military, being represented in action figure form, I think is like every young kid born in the 80s that went on to serve in the military's dream is to be a GI Joe, and they very much so have that opportunity. But with the tariffs, I'm very interested. So folks, pay attention to this one. Back it if it's in in your line of toys and collections. I think it looks really cool.
It's
And
a really cool
hopefully,
father and son duo. So I mean, it's definitely worth with what
you
they're
met them,
doing
right?
as far I talked to them for quite a while, and for what they're doing as far as honoring true life veterans and stuff, on top of making cool ass looking action figures. I mean, if you can support them and it's in your Fatrid, it's 1/12. It's not the God scale 1/18 that you collect. So just
The God scale is
close your
1/12,
eyes.
isn't it?
Fatrid says God scale is 1/18, so I just like to appease him.
Oh.
Otherwise, he
Gotcha.
goes and cries, and it's a mess.
I mean, he only cries in 1/18 scale, so it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anybody.
I don't know if they're technically connected, but I know when I talked to I can't think of his name, the father of the guys that are doing it, they are talking about being able to donate some of the money once it's going to whether it's Wounded Warrior or whatever, right? That type of thing. So
yeah, that's awesome. So that's what we have for those guys. Definitely check out their Instagram. We'll keep you guys updated as that progresses. Next, a quick update from our boys over at Savage Crucible. Wave 2 updates were sent out. There was an update to it. Get your address updated. They have all the steps on Instagram. Go ahead, remind you how to do it. I believe there's a date. I don't have the date in front of me right now, but there's a cutoff date in which if you do not update your mailing address and you need to make a change to it after said date, I think it might be April 21st, if I remember correctly. If you don't update your address for shipping and you need to do it at a later time before it ships, there will be some sort of charge, I believe, to have like an update made. So there could be issues for service fees, etc., like that. They did move their site from what was like a Weebly site previously to a Shopify site, so that the ordering and address management and stuff's a lot more effective and efficient. So they've been in the process of transitioning over that. That should be all in place now. And then they did update a little bit around the new tariffs. Again, it seems like something we keep mentioning. Independent toy companies, they're very transparent. They want to be transparent. And this is definitely going to impact them. So we're all holding on tight here. But they did provide an update and did say that while it will be a burden, if there is still an assumed 54% tariff increase against the Wave 2 figures when they do come into the ports or whatever, they are actually going to absorb the cost up front for that for Wave 2. Though the price for in stock in the future will likely result in a higher price because of the import fees. But
it's
those
kind
that
of
are
what
already backed for Wave 2.
BBTS did the same thing with the Fresh Monkey Fiction Book 2. For anybody that had it pre-ordered, they kept the $36 price, and then anybody that's going to buy now and into the future is going to be at a $40 price. So,
okay, yeah.
So
that's
they're trying to honor
the
the people that have already purchased, and then capitalize on what's afterwards. So
exactly.
And yes, Brian, Death Dealer is an amazing figure, and we both have him on order.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Ed. I appreciate that, brother.
You are welcome, my son.
Very much appreciate it. But yeah, so they do have the Wave 2s coming in, and they're going to honor that because they figured that in the nickel and diming the consumer that backed it already because of this kind of in flight not knowing and how things are going to be, it's going to hurt them a little bit up front by absorbing the cost, but in the long run they feel it's the right thing to do. So another independent toilet company taking care of their people, trying to do right by them, knowing that by doing right by us now is going to help keep them in business in the future. So definitely commend them on that.
Well, it's one of those things, right? And not to go off on a tangent, but it's one of those things as a business, and I'm relating this to the job that I do every day. I work for a tool company that's based out of Germany. And granted, our tariff from the EU is not as high as from China right now. But we had to make the decision last week when they went into effect. Do we charge this to orders that are already on the books or just all the new orders, right? And the thing you got to weigh is, okay, if I start charging people that have already purchased this in advance, you have the risk of losing all of those orders or slowing down from that point on with future orders, which, is what kind of Savage Crucible is banking on, right? If you give the people their Kickstarter at $40 or whatever it is, and then future figures are $45, it's not as painful as just saying, I know you purchased this 6 months ago for, $40 a figure, but now it's going to be 45. So you owe us an extra, $40, $50, $100, whatever it is that you spent, so not only do you have to go out there and put a bad taste in your consumers' mouths, you also have to go through all the work of invoicing them to get that money and trying to chase it down and deciding who actually paid the extra money and who doesn't. And it's a mess. So I think it's really the right way to go is, let ride what you did, absorb it the best you can, and then take it onto the new stuff where people can make that decision on the front side if they want to spend that money or not.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully that's how a lot of these folks do it as much as they can. I know some folks like Patriot Voice or better yet, a Brutal Realms who hasn't already established themselves may have a harder time doing that.
Yeah.
Such,
I think the new Kickstarters are going to struggle right now. Not that they can't come back and try again when the tariffs all level out and all this craziness. It's all going to subside. I mean, it's just the wave. Rising up right now. It'll all subside and everything will go back to the new norm.
I think they're gonna hurt. I think Kickstarter's gonna have a hard time launching right now. I think and I know like someone like a Patriot Force, they're in the process of trying to launch. This is they put things on hold last year and kind of redo some things, I believe, and kind of realign before they went forward with it. I have no criticism of them, but I would be hesitant to back any Kickstarters right now myself, just because of the not knowing. And if they don't set the prices properly right now, there's a potential chance that, because Kickstarters aren't guaranteed. If they run out of money and they don't have the money to ship it in and get it in the door, like what happens then? And that would be horrible. I don't wish that on anyone. So it's definitely something you have to consider and be aware of.
Yeah, it's a tough time to go into launching a Kickstarter, especially for new companies like Patriot Force, right? Not the Patriot Force is a new company, but it is a brand new Kickstarter with a brand new.
It's the first time, right?
Yeah.
Brutal Realm right now. They got in before all that stuff, but they could be drastically impacted, right? Like it could really.
They're the ones that I'm really scared for, right? The ones that have already did the Kickstarter and are halfway through the process now. How do you handle that, right? I mean, it's like
exactly, and they don't have the revenue. Right? They don't have the revenue and stuff from a previous wave and such to be able to back and say, okay, we can take that hit. So, hopefully folks can do an honor and hopefully things clear up sooner than later on that. Moving on to Space Zombies from Mars, another
Wraith popped in.
Oh yeah,
I got a 3,000. He's got a 3K cosplay armor being built for Warhammer, which is incredible. Built in China right now. I don't want to know how much the tariff is going to be on that. Yeah, probably just best to wait till it's all over with and hope that the tide slows down for your Wraith.
Absolutely. Space Zombies from Mars, quick update from Adam and the team over there, Arlen and Ira, I believe, if I have the names remembered. The campaign ended without reaching its funding goals, but the team remains proud of the progress and grateful for the support from the backers and the fans. Development will continue, as they previously alluded to, with plans to submit paint masters and request factory-produced checked models and paint samples as their next steps for the Space Zombies for Mars. A digital soundtrack will be shared with the backers soon, and the team is already brainstorming ideas for a future Kickstarter relaunch. They're not done yet. And they also alluded to not being, what's next may not be Space Zombies from Mars. It may be whatever else the TNT group decided to move forward with. Yeah. So we wish them all the best.
They alluded to some other ideas they already had cooked up. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. With Arlen and Adam and Ira working on it, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, especially if they create another soundtrack that inspires them to do some other things. I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even think about them kind of staying with that approach, but that would make sense if that's their niche for sure. That's cool. Next is a quick update from Valaverse. Just another preview, man. They keep teasing. They have some new flame-themed accessory effects from Valaverse, and they're generating some hype in the chats, right? They love the blast effects, and that they're not bent or droopy. I saw that in the comments. And the clear, it's a pretty solid looking quality from the looks of it. And then they suggest that some are flamethrower wielding figures, maybe on the way, or possibly a firefighter style Praetorian character. And then you have the blue one, which is like, well, what is that? So very interested to see where they go.
Fire and ice.
I mean, that's where my thought was, but
Yep.
like, we'll see how that goes.
I mean, unless it's pollution, right? I mean, and who wants to promote that
know
in this world?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they have. Poison or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Noxious gas.
Cool. So that wraps up this week's news and takes us back into the board games room. The board games boom here.
Let's run through the chat real quick. We got a few new people that we got to say hi to. Northern Nomads here saying, "Sup, suckers?"
What's up?
This was in reference to Kenzo throwing out his burn on you, buzzing the tower.
Fair enough.
Brian talking about the prices on the Spiro, AWOC, Animal Wars of the Kingdom stuff. Prices are amazing. If anyone wants to try one, definitely time to try one if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
The prices are too good to beat. And we brought up a chat for him already, but Largo's here. Mudhorn, we brought up one of his chats too, but he's here at Mudhorn Station. His dragon arrives today, but it's a lot cheaper and a lot smaller than Bathe here. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. As long as it makes you happy, that's all that matters in this world. Buy what makes you happy. Don't follow the crowd. Don't get caught in the hype.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it and you want something different, or you want something that's not the dragon, I had to sit and think about, do I want Monster Force or do I want a Dragonborn? Because I could afford both of them, but it would be a real tight, living on the ramen soup for a while. So,
and additionally, let's settle down the toy shaming, Brick.
Yes, Brick.
Yeah, you don't need to toy shame.
What's up, Frisco? And Thanos Copter's here.
What's up?
Thanos has posted some pictures on his IG of his Creative Beast Studios dragon. So if anybody's interested in what
I haven't seen those yet. I'll have to check them out. A lot of times it's some not safe for work, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
The Tick 6-inch figure looks pretty cool. Yeah, he looks pretty cool. And when he gets closer to the time for the Tick, which I don't think he's due out till the end of 2026, I really like the Tick cartoon, so I'll probably pop in and check that out. And considering it's from Fresh Monkey Fiction, I'm pretty much all in on everything. We did share a chat from Wraith Mace already, but Wraith is here. What's up, Wraith? Thanks for stopping in. And we got random diorama. Anybody that wants to learn about building dioramas randomly and how you just sit down at your table with a pile of foam and then, polish the turd into something cool, check out Random's stream on Friday nights on his Random Diorama channel. We usually start Friday nights around 11:45 to midnight time frame, somewhere in that area. Cool hangout, really chill music. We just bullshit and watch Random build something.
Sorry. I just read Brick's comment.
Brick says, I don't get the reference in the pick. Why add De Niro and the dude from Linkin Park playing Sorry? Why is he calling you De Niro?
Me, De Niro?
I'm sure he's referring to me as De Niro, but
yeah, I was thinking I was in Linkin Park, but there is a guy in Linkin Park that wears glasses like that too. So I'm like, I don't know where he's going. We need some clarification there, Brick, because I'm cool with being
who's who. We want to know who's who.
Chester. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and you're welcome, brother. It's a good show. I enjoy it very much. And me and this guy are always in the chat on random shows, so it's always a good time. I thought that was Henry Rollins. Well, yeah, it could be too.
I'll have to show the original photo at some point of what what our pictures are generated off of. But so yeah, are you good at the chat?
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. We're good.
Okay, awesome. So the main topic, right? It's the ToyLeet Takeover. It's episode 45. We're almost on a year here of 52 episodes for season 1 wrapping up here coming up. But this week we wanted to dive in and talk a little bit about how board games and the boom around it right now, right? So, this one's really for all our dice rollers, card flippers, and skirmish commanders, right? Tabletop gaming has been booming over the last, 3-4 years, 5 years now, I guess. Time flies by.
Yeah, since 2020, when the COVID really
when we
really
were all
blew it up.
exactly, so it's booming like really in recent years more than it ever had been, right? Since
Yep.
2020, tabletop scene has gone wild from kitchen tables packed with families playing classics and
Yeah.
to the living room transformed into a full-blown Dungeons and Dragons campaign, right? Warhammer, war zones, and whatnot. We're going to dig in a little bit to what may have sparked this resurgent, how pop culture has to some degree fueled it, and why tabletop might be a new frontier for some collectors like us, right?
Yeah.
And maybe folks in the chat. So we're going to dive in there and kind of cover some of that stuff. So tune in and kind of ride along with us. We're going to rewind a little bit though, right, Ed? So I called you Ted. You were Eric last week. I almost called you Ted just now.
How long we been doing this? 45 episodes
right?
in,
but
and
we've
been
defense,
friends since
defense,
like 2022, and you still can't get my name right.
In my defense, I haven't been on half the episodes, Ed. So there's that. So there's that.
Valid.
Like, I mean, right? No, with all seriousness, though, yeah. My apologies, but if we rewind, right, and we kind of paint the picture, 2020, everything's moving a mile a minute. Amazon's dropping stuff off at our doors. We're all driving to and from our sports activities, and the radio hits. And, we're all going to work every day. And you hear on the radio, the NBA closed down basketball. And when that happened, boom, it all shut down. And it was just trickle effect, right? We're all stuck at home and suddenly everybody's looking for something to do. Some people occupied their mind by going crazy, scrolling through the Instagrams and the Facebooks and digging into all the politics and everything like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the ones that did something productive. They spend time with their family. Me personally, I had a 17-year-old at home. I try to look at the positive in everything in life. And when COVID hit, I was working a lot. But when I wasn't working, what I had was what most parents don't have when they have a 17-year-old teenage, boy at home in his senior year of school or his junior year. They're normally not home. They're working or they're out and about. What I had is I had lockdowns, and I had the opportunity to spend a ton of time with my junior and senior and my other kids, during that time. And some of the things we did were puzzles and board games.
My kids, my oldest with my ex-wife was 20, and then I had a 17 and a 15-year-old, or 16 and a 14-year-old. So I mean, that time you usually don't get that year with those kids, between going to school and all the after-school activities and hanging out with their friends, right? It's like it was just us. So we played Uno and Phase 10 and Monopoly, and I mean, I don't think our Monopoly board got that much use in the 5 years we owned it previously.
Yeah. I mean, we streamed a lot, besides playing games. You know what I did? I said, oh, this is great. Let's rewatch The Walking Dead. The shit's hitting the fan, guys. Let's dive right on into The Walking Dead. So we're ready. Like, let's watch this. Yeah. So we started that all over. But no, board games, they started flying off the shelves. People were collecting cards. People were doing all sorts of other things. But one of the things that a lot of folks started doing is getting together with their family, which they hadn't been doing because they were all so preoccupied with their devices and activities. But now you're stuck at home and you're getting bored of your phone. You're getting bored being, just scrolling. You actually want to get outside or you want to sit around and do something. So people took out Catan, took out Clue. They took out Ticket to Ride. Some people were taking out things like Sorry and puzzles. Battleship was making a huge comeback. Families were reconnecting over cardboard, dice, and strategies, right? Collectors got involved too.
Where I live, I live out in the country, so it's a lot easier, right? But I mean, I remember those days. I'd get home because I still had to work. I went to work, because I was considered, whatever the hell they called it, necessary.
Important,
right? So I get home from
workers.
work at essential, right? I get home from work at 4:30 or 5. We'd have dinner, my ex-wife would get home from work at like 6 because she was a nurse, so she was essential. We'd take a walk, when it was nice out. We'd take a walk because we were surrounded by woods, Nothing else you're going to do. Eat dinner, take a walk in the woods. We come back in, no point in putting the kids to bed at, 8 p.m. because they're not getting up in the morning to go to school. So we'd play, Monopoly or some board game for an hour or two with them, and just, I mean, I think part of the reason that a lot of people like our age, and you too, because you have kids that are basically the same age as mine, I think we have a different bond with our kids than our parents had with us, because at that point in time, we were going out and being adults. We weren't home at all, right? So it's a totally different,
Yeah,
totally different way to live.
absolutely, absolutely. And families got pulled in, but collectors got pulled in too, right? So they wanted things that were tactical, social, and nostalgia driven, right? Something that we as action figure collectors can relate to, right? We can draw on that same feeling. um you know and this whole collecting and board games and stuff, it's alive and well. My brother is a huge board game person. He comes over for every holiday with his wife, and he brings an entire duffel bag of board games because they're huge into the board games. They always have been, but they've even gotten more into it over the years. So they have so many of them, and we always try different games, and they always get the kids games for the holidays and stuff. So we have things to do, but it's a huge thing, and he collects so many of them. So the pandemic hit. I think it hit a lot of us in different ways. Some of us started diving in collecting sports cards because they were stuck at home, a little extra money, not much to do, but they could get into these stores like Target and Walmart and try to get their hands on some cards. And, you have your son at home and there's not something to do, and you start busting open cards and collecting together. So, others got into family board games and things like that. So I think we saw a huge, jump in this over the last 5 years. I don't know that we're still there as heavy as we were, because people are starting, they're back out living their lives and doing things. But I think some of it's still going to stick with people. And as a result, may have saved some of these games that kind of were getting shelved for a long time.
I think
and not being
I
played.
think it definitely saved the board games, because a lot of them, every year the stores, right? You see at Christmas time they come out with huge amounts of monopolies and all the standard games that everybody's gotten for Christmas forever, right? And I remember before the pandemic hit, you could go to those stores and very few people were picking up the board games, right? Because everybody was
those shelves were always
video
full.
games. Yeah, the shelves were always full, right? They were going after the video games or the digital, AI or VR games and stuff like that, right? And the pandemic hit, and it was like, okay, well, you're not going to sit there and be in your virtual reality while I'm sitting out here living this life at home with you.
Exactly.
Right? So we're going to play this game. And, I'm sure there's a lot of families where the kids were like, I ain't doing this with you, Dad. And then after a couple of days, it was like, okay, this is cool, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how it went down in my house. It's like, I don't want to. We played a lot of Skippo, a lot of Uno.
Yes.
My brother got Catan for me, because I like those strategy games. I wanted Dungeon. We got Dungeons and Dragons for my son for Christmas one year. We never played the game because then we actually got it from him for the Christmas before COVID hit, because he was interested in it, and then COVID hit, and we had plans to get together with people, and then it all got shut down. So
we had the same thing. Luke was getting big into Dungeons and Dragons at that time, and he was going over to his one friend's house every Friday night, where the dad was he's a teacher, and he was big into Dungeons and Dragons, so he was being the DM for them, the dungeon master. And then my son and his 3 or 4 friends were the going through the quest, and they started doing that, probably for like 3 or 4 months, and then COVID hit, and it was like, bam, shut right down, right? And that was the year we got him Dungeons and Dragons, starter kit for Christmas. It was like,
you got it. And it's funny that we talk about that, because on the next slide here is exactly what I'm going into, and that's the same starter kit that I got my son, which is probably similar to what you got, Luke.
Exactly the same one.
I read through the DM guide and was gonna run the thing for everybody so that they could play. And when my son actually just started playing with his girlfriend and her brother and some other folks on Friday nights, I think, like a week or two ago. Finally, 5 years in the making, but he's playing now. So, but D&D, right? It used to kind of just be a punchline, right? I mean, maybe not in your circle and my circle, but a lot of circles. Oh, you're a D&D guy? That's geeky. That's nerdy. I remember my first exposure to
when I was a kid, Dungeons and Dragons was the first step into witchcraft and Satan worship. So
you're going to hell.
You play Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. Oh, you're a witchcraft user. You're going to go to hell because you're worshiping Satan. And
exactly. You're smoking pot and you're all that stuff, right? But no, like for me when I was a kid, because I'm a few years younger, but back in the late 90s, early 2000, it must have been 2000, I think, 99. My first exposure to it was at a camp I went away to for 3 weeks, and we played it at like our free time. There was every day you had some time, so it was my first exposure. I loved it. But I came back home after camp and nobody ever played it. Nobody knew anything about it. So I was like, that's not going to happen. But what
I
was
learned
interesting is
Dungeons and Dragons from my uncle, and I've told the story on other streams. My uncle played Dungeons and Dragons from the very beginning when it was first launched, right? And he has one of his best friends that lives in a completely different state now. They still get together once a year and continue to play the same game in Dungeons and Dragons that they have
that's cool.
played for 50 years now. They started when they were in their
That's-
20s when he was in the
awesome.
Marine Corps, right? And it's like they still play the same game. They're still the same characters. They're level 1 million now for their characters, right? I mean, but they take turns building the quest for the year, and it's pretty cool, right? So I mean,
they got a whole year to build it.
Yeah, that was my first exposure to it, right? It's like I started playing it when I was young because he would.
That's cool.
Me and my brother and my cousin were all the same age, so he would play with us. He'd be the dungeon master, and his quests back then were real simple for us, right? Because we were young kids, right? But still a lot of fun. So it's always been kind of part of my life, and I had a couple of games where I played with some friends for a while, and then life happens, and you end up not being able to play, and then. Once one guy stops playing, then everybody else is like, yeah, I can't make it on Friday. And they always fall apart.
Right.
Now with the internet, people are playing the games right through the internet, so it's a great way to keep going.
Absolutely. And I think that's between COVID, but also because of pop culture, right? I don't think I'm that young. I feel older than crap. But
you look older than crap too, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Thank you. But there was things like I didn't watch much of it. My daughter got me into it more recently, but Stranger Things, it brought it back into the spotlight, and
that really blew
culture,
it up
right?
for sure. Yep, that really blew it up.
There was that, and then there was the Goldbergs. Anybody that watches that, I think that was definitely Dungeons and Dragons wasn't seen in that shiny light back then.
Yeah,
when they were kind of the way they were promoting the Goldbergs, it was much more like the nerd thing to do, along with Adam and the rest of his crew, but. That was there. It was kind of cool again. It was something people were doing. And then during COVID and even before, you have things like Critical Role, right? Celebrity campaigns, Dungeons and D&D Beyond, right? People could see on YouTube and different streams and other things, where other people were playing it, collaborating and creating things and having fun with it. It became more mainstream again, right? So I think the combination of that, COVID, all of this coming together has really given people the opportunity to put down the phone where possible and start to throw some dice, flip some cards, use some miniatures and things like that, right? And let's not forget, right? Dungeons and Dragons, like, it's not just paper based anymore. People have 3D printers readily available to them, and there's online, and Walmart had clearance some little 35 millimeter or whatever 28 millimeter figures and stuff, right? And they had those in the stores, and you could buy those so you could have physical representation of your character, not just the drawing on the piece of paper and the stats. You could have someone, and you can, they're building worlds, right? So there's terrain, there's minis, there's the maps, props. It's kind of, customizers, a lot of people start out with that stuff.
That's where Random Diorama got to start, was building terrain and pieces for miniatures, whether that was Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons tabletop stuff. So
there you go. Then you just keyed into the next slide. Warhammer, right? So D&D is the gateway, right? Warhammer is the deep end. Right? It's skirmish gaming, all these different measurements and stats and everything. You have Warhammer 40K, Warhammer, you got the Age of Sigmar, you got Star Wars Legion, which you can see there. I don't know much about that one. I actually got my first exposure to Warhammer 40K back when I was like 12 or 13. One of my good friends got into it, and there was a local comic book shop and toy shop there that sold all these miniatures. I was way too poor. I could not afford a $24 metal figure to paint, but my buddy's family got him one. He had the huge styrofoam board, to play.
Warhammer's kind of a crazy
example.
thing too, because there are people that are into Warhammer that love the game and the mythos and all that stuff behind it, right? I have a good friend, one of my really good friends. He doesn't do anything except collect the figures so he can paint them, and then he just stands them up, right? It's for him, it's not the game, it's just the painting, because the figures are cool and they can paint them. They don't take up a lot of room, right? And it's just
Yeah, that's my cousin. He does that. He does that, right? He buys the different vehicles and the different characters and stuff, and he paints them and then displays them. And he just loves the painting and the artistic side of it. He doesn't play the game at all, from my understanding. It's always been just about collecting them and whatnot. But people get into this. It's a huge game, right? And again, it overlaps with action figures again, right? People are building dioramas, and this is even more like Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like playing in that space, and like the really cool games are really heavy into that stuff. But like, that's all coming over from that Warhammer 40K and all of that miniature world where folks are building those dios and like building full-fledged campaign boards and all of that stuff, right? And then again, throw the 3D printing in the mix, and now you got custom armies and battlefield terrain. And I'm sure if you go on Kickstarter, there's countless 3D printing models, STLs you can buy into for all this wargaming stuff and whatnot, right? So this really, that's why it's adjacent, right? It flows right into, the hobby that we're in when it comes to the customizations, that artistic collecting and whatnot, very much so. But again,
and Troy brings up another part of that, right? Is that McFarlane did some Warhammer figures, and they were full scale action figures. They, he painted, had some that were painted and some that came in grayscale, so you could paint them up. So,
yep, I saw those. Yep. So Warcraft and World of Warcraft is based off Warhammer originally. See, I did not know that. That is interesting. I know Warhammer was the mech world, right? It was that more fantasy world, which I knew Warcraft and, World of Warcraft from the 90s. I did not know that spawned from Warhammer. I kind of assumed it went the other way, but that makes total sense.
Yeah, I did not know that either, but it definitely adds up. So.
But thanks, so like, Brad. As you see, right, this gaming and the board gaming, and it's very adjacent to what we're talking about every week: toys and collecting, art, customizing, dios, displays, all that stuff, right? And then, we have what could have been. So this is one that got me heavy into.
I think you should have played a sad song for this. Come up with like a what could have been song, real sad.
Oh, should have.
I know how disappointed you were when this went.
I think I was like buyer number 2 or something on it. Like I saw it go live during the live stream when they were on talking about it. I think they were on were they on the Hella Dope show, or I don't remember.
Jeremy and his brother were on Hella Dope when they announced this. Yep.
Yeah, so this is a big one, right? And for me, it didn't come to fruition. It was, the Primal Battle. They had a commercial about it, and to me, it was an incredible way of going to that next level, right? You got your little miniatures. Well, now we have all of these collectibles, these figures that would play perfect in some game, and they have an entire rule book, stat cards, board, battle board, all that stuff, right? And it was basically toy compatible and toy agnostic too, right? So yes, this board game and stuff was very targeted towards the AWOCs, and it really heavily influenced my consumer purchases. But the the fact that it was agnostic to action figure lines and you could play with anything, you could bring them in and customize your stats and stuff, I thought it was really freaking cool. It's supposed to bring your toys into gaming on the table, right? No more just what's in your mind, but actually playing a game with your family, your friends, whatever.
It's kind of cool too, because if you're collecting, whether it was AWOC or, say Monster Force, right? If you were collecting one of those lines, you could, and you wanted to play a game, you didn't have to go out and buy a whole new set of miniatures or a whole new, thing. You just bring out this game, bring out your figures, and you got a new game to play. A new way to interact with your action figures other than just taking, photographs and posing them and things that we all do, right?
I had planned to set up a camera and do some live stream and play a game with people virtually. Like I was ready. I was.
You were, man. You were so excited. I remember that day. You're like, yes, I got in. I'm number 2. As soon as they said it's launched, you were like, yep, I got it. I'm in. Well,
I was on before they launched it. I was like, I wonder if they're going to announce it. And I went to the website and I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's here. And I was able to do it like a couple seconds before it was officially there.
Yeah.
So, it was a way to bring those toys to the table and whatnot. The trailer dropped and the hype was real, at least in my eyes. I mean, I was all about it. But then it silenced out. And unfortunately, I believe it didn't get the funding they were looking to. There wasn't enough interest in it. Yeah. I really hope that something comes from this in the future, because I think tabletop gaming is cool. I think what's really cool is our action figures.
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was AWOC, right? And like I said in the past, right? I love the AWOC figures. They're amazing figures. I love the lore that they've built, but AWOC just does not have like the market presence that it deserves, right? And for
It
whatever
doesn't.
the reason is, it's not for the lack of them trying, right? It's just maybe it's because people don't like monkeys and cats, or I don't know what it is, but like it definitely deserves a larger market presence than it gets. It gets very
It needs a
overpowered.
cartoon. It
Yeah, it
needs a
gets.
cartoon
Oh
on
yeah,
Amazon Prime.
yep,
And if it's not a cartoon on Amazon Prime or something, I'm telling you, like, this is blowing up because
yeah, exactly
if they
right.
had the
Because
media
it's
to promote it,
overshadowed by the Four Horsemen and Savage on the fantasy side, and then it's overshadowed
yeah,
by like Vala and Classified on the military side of things. And it's just if it had a cartoon, shit, this thing would blow up. It's just like the Plunderlings, right? They're definitely
yep,
deserving a bigger market presence than they have. And
yep.
if Plunderlings did a cartoon based on some of those short commercials that they do, shit, man, that thing would blow up like crazy. I mean, you'd get adult collectors and kids into that easily.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. I mean, this would blow up like crazy, but I think this is a really cool way. I hope, and I haven't talked to Jeremy in some time. I do hope that the silence on this isn't the end of this, because this is a game I want to play. I want to run this. I want to try
Yeah,
it out. I've got the table and I got a game table in my kitchen area. It pulls out, it's a big square. It would be perfect for this. I've got
and
all the
Jeremy
figures
talked
you need.
about him and his brother designing other games, that were,
Yeah.
basically like a general one. You could put any action figure on the table, and then a
Yep.
military type style one. And it would
Yep.
have been a cool way to just set up and, like I said, interact with your action figures. So,
100%.
and Brian agrees, man. He wants to play it too. So,
Exactly. I hit that button because I was playing with something on the other side here.
but while
Give me
you're
one
doing that, I'm going to run through the chat real quick because we got a few new
please.
people and a couple of comments that are kind of related. So, GI Jetman saying, does anybody remember the 80s role playing game Marvel Superheroes created by Dungeons and Dragons? I vaguely remember that, but I was totally into the sci-fi fantasy stuff when I was a kid, so Marvel was not really a big thing for me. Red, I'm saying video games made gaming more familiar than ever. More people are used to nerdy game mechanics. Many video game mechanics were based off of the D&D. Yeah, definitely. And Robert's Infinite Realms showing up. What's up, Robert? Yo, what's up,
Hey,
party
been a while, man.
peoples? Fat Red saying playing Cards Against Humanity with your 81-year-old mother-in-law with dementia is amazing. I can only imagine. We play Cards Against Humanity when I go on my trip with my four good friends, and man, what a fucking night that is. And this Brian says, does every family have that one person that skirts the rules? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
You got that one
that's a
guy, one
go-to.
person in every family that makes the rules bend to whatever they need.
Every family has that racist uncle. They have the creepy uncle, and
Yeah.
they have like the drunk grandma, and everybody has a hyper like strategic rule cheating son of a
Super
gun at board games.
competitive. Yeah. Like in my family, right? My ex-wife was the super competitive. Like Monopoly, she could not lose at Monopoly. So
Yep.
she was super competitive, right? And then I have my daughter who is like, flutter your eyeballs, your eyelids, cry if you have to, get the rules to work out in your favor, or have somebody cut you a break.
Awesome.
Kenzo saying, my son made his own board game and it's really good. We play it all the time, made it all from scratch. That's awesome, Kenzo. You should show that off on your live stream on some Wednesday night, dude.
Yeah.
People would love to see that. And Dave's Dimensions here. What's up, Dave? I will be joining Dave and this guy down here, Dre the Geek Dad, soon on their live stream. Guys, send me a reminder because I know it's coming up in April and I don't remember what day it is. So send me a reminder. But I will join them guys on one of their shows. And then Troy saying, I liked and got the first wave of the Plunderlings. Yeah, Plunderlings are cool.
I got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of Plunder Strongs and Plunder Longs I'm getting rid of, though.
Yeah. And then Nomad saying there was a Marvel Superheroes role-playing game and a DC one also.
I have the Marvel Superheroes one. I got it for Christmas, I think, during the COVID timeframes, and I never got around because I had to paint everything. I never got around to working on it. So, yeah.
And yes, it'll
Oh,
be
I remember.
next week sometime, I
Go ahead.
guess.
Awesome.
And you talk about this one?
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that because we've actually, my youngest son, he loves Tim the Toolman, so we actually just binge watched for the last couple of months.
That was a good show, man. That was a good
Home
family
Improvement
show. Love that show.
Yeah, yeah, we enjoyed it. So I do remember that we went through all, I think, like 8 or 9 seasons. So awesome. So this game again, I think this could have been a game changer. I hope it will be a game changer at some point. Maybe a partnership with like Four Horsemen or something, right? Like something, a bigger branding, something that's got the Cabal behind it. I know the Cabal's got, I know the Four Horsemen, which I didn't talk about in this slide deck, is the, you know, they've got their board game coming, which is based off the D&D rules, if I remember correctly, and whatnot. So some really cool stuff going on there. You know, there's a lot of this going on. But again, one of the things I want to call out in the next slide is like the, you know, you might be thinking, you know, like how does board games have to tie in with, you know, what we do on the toilet, what we talk about? We talk about adjacent, right? And I think we've already covered a bunch of times, right? The crossover is real. Board games, dioramas, painting minis,
Yep.
terrain designing, army collecting, army building. You know, this is it's the collector culture. It's what we do, whether it's board games or wrestling figures or AWOC figures, right? I mean, the last slide said it enough. That was our collecting and a board game. Maybe it didn't come to fruition yet, but you know, that's exactly what it was. So
yeah, you know, especially in our toy world, right? I mean, a lot of guys my age through your age, right? Guys in their 50s, 40s, late 30s, whatever, right? A lot of us, even though the internet was around and we have video game systems, a lot of us still started out with board games as some of the first things we ever really played. You know, I mean, I was playing Uno with my great grandmother when I was, you know, old enough to read the cards. I mean, she smoked my ass every time because I couldn't figure out how the game worked. But, you know, I mean, I grew up playing euchre and spades. You know, it was like just games are, you know, just it was part of life, right? Because we didn't have all the distractions that you have today, right? So you had to do something.
Not at all. I mean, a game I recently started playing, and I hate it because I suck at it. My mom, you know, we have an in-law suite here for her, so she lives with us. Sometimes on like a Sunday night or a Friday night, Saturday night, if there's time, she'll come up and play board games. My mom loves to play board games, but she just got Sequence for Christmas, so we'll play Sequence. My wife and my mom and I will play a round or two of that, and I suck. My wife kicks my butt every single freaking time. She beats me and my mom so bad at that game.
And does she let you know that she beat you?
She's well, my mom and I in the last game we were playing, we were kind of like ganging up on her and stopping her from getting her sequences like every single chance we could get.
Yeah.
And she at the end of it was like, I had you guys beat from about 5 minutes into that round, and you two just kept stopping me every chance you got. So like, yeah, she's good at it. She's good. She's really good. She's not competitive at all. She's so like relaxed and chilled, but like she somehow wins every single time. But again, right? This is, you know, kind of another topic, a little different. Wanted to kind of cover some adjacent stuff, right? It's all tied into, you know, your customizations, your toy playing, and
that's
you know,
right, Troy. We had dirt and sticks as kids, and we were happy. That's right. There's nothing better than finding that good stick when you're walking through the woods, man. I'll tell you.
Exactly.
It's still a thing.
Oh,
absolutely.
Like
it to this day, right? You find that good stick, you're just like, man, this is an awesome stick.
I find one every year that becomes my fire stick in my fire pit in my backyard. So yes, I definitely really, I walk through the woods, I'm doing some cleanup, getting the leaves up, you know, things like that. And I always find something that's broken off.
Those good
or
pokers, right? You get that end burnt, that stuff will last forever, right? As long as you're not like actually intentionally burning it, just poking the fire. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to start covering more little different things, right? This is what we want to do. We want to kind of continue to cover topics that are a little different. But, you know, what tabletop games is the community here in chat to? You know, is there a favorite system or miniatures that you guys, you know, enjoy playing with?
I know up top, Jeff talked about Crossbones and Catapults, I think was one of the games that was mentioned earlier.
Okay, yep.
Jeff.
Yep.
And I can't think of the other one that was mentioned, but there's a couple of people that put them in there.
Yeah, and you know, I think you covered it, right? You know, we have some random diorama. He does live sessions where he's doing live terrain or you know, diorama building.
He just did that a few weeks back on his channel, he built several rock and mountain structures, for miniatures, right? I mean, just cut them out, stuck them together, painted them up. They came out really good. And,
Yep,
people
absolutely.
use that stuff. I had to bring this comment up because I had to laugh at this earlier, but I was saving it for the end. Brian, I'm undefeated at Candyland. That is a great champion. I hope you got a belt for that, brother. I hope you got a belt.
I mean, I'm not gonna brag, but I got one up on you there. I'm undefeated at solitaire. Ain't nobody ever beat me at solitaire, and I ain't never lost either. Because if I do, I just grab one from the bottom. I grab one from the bottom.
My great grandmother taught me how to play solitaire when I was very young, and I do not lose at solitaire.
I don't either. I always win.
Play,
I gotta grab one from the bottom.
21, regular solitaire, all of it, right? It's just Dre saying
Magic the Gathering.
Dungeons Dragons, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, board games too.
Man, I loved Magic, dude. I loved that when I was in 6th or 7th grade, man. That was such a cool game. I remember playing it. That I could afford to play back then.
One of my favorite games to play with my kids is Phase 10. We play a lot of Phase 10.
Yep.
That's a really strategic
we play
game.
We play that with Son of Wonder. He plays that one. Skippo's the big one we play.
Yep,
but
Skippo's
Phase
fun
10
too.
is one we play too.
Yeah. What was the other one? My kids really like to play. I can't remember what it was called, but I think it might have been Skippo.
Right there. These two right here.
Chess.
Patrick. No, you you want to go ahead and hit it?
Oh, Stratego and Risk?
Yeah, those two right there. I actually got Stratego for my boys a couple years back because I got it when I was younger one with my brother and I, and we would play it for hours.
Nomad says solitaire is for suckers, especially when you're playing with a 51 card deck. Why can't I beat this game?
Oh, that's why I just pull out the Joker. It's wild.
That's right.
Awesome.
Stratego and Risk. My brother and I really got into those when we were younger. My dad, it was so I wish I knew what the name of the game was, but he had a game, and it was kind of on the same basis, but it was like set in the Civil War, and you had little miniatures.
Was it like Axis and Allies or anything like that?
It might have been Axis and Allies, but he gave us his game from when he was a kid, from like the 50s, right? He gave us that game. Yeah. So we started playing that, and then we went into, my mom got us, it was either Stratego or Risk after that. And, me and my brother would play that all the time. And then that translated into us getting a bunch of like the little green army men, and then we'd set them up across each other in the hallway. I was always the green guys. He was always the gray Nazis because he sucked. And we just shoot rubber bands at each other's troops and just take each other's troops out, and whoever had the last guy standing won.
I never got into the army men. I had them, but I never really played with them a lot. But I just put the correlation between miniature board gaming and those guys together. They would have been perfect figures to use for that.
Back when I was a kid, right, you could get, like, every Christmas, I would get a bucket and my brother would get a bucket, right? And it was like 100 pieces, right? And it was, 80 soldiers, 40 and 40 of good and bad. And then you had planes and tanks. And fences or bunkers or whatever, right? And I said, we just separate them. So, I was green, he was gray, or whatever the colors were. Yeah. We had about a 10-foot hallway, and we'd set up on each end of it, set up a whole huge, thing. And then tanks had to get hit 3 times. And, soldiers, as soon as they fell, it was over, right? We just
you made your own game.
Each other. Yep, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
We do that for like a whole Saturday, just all day long, just do that.
That's an interesting one.
Here's a new game, yeah.
Think about how many baseball cards you wasted.
And cracks the sidewalks, roll a softball, and any card we hit. Interesting, kind of like bowling, but
Yeah.
Now G.I. Jetman goes, man, I can't believe I had a Babe Ruth and I just totally trashed it.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. He's got that. He's got that Mickey Mantle.
Daryl's
just like
Daryl's strawberry card, right, from when he hit the home runs. It was like, oh no. Yeah. Oh, there's another one Briscoe brought up. Hero Quest. That was a good one too. Yeah.
They just did that. They did the HasLab on that recently, right?
Yep.
I didn't know there was a Raw's Ward card game, but I did recently pick up a board game that I cannot get my family to play with me. It's like a WWE Royal Rumble game, and it's like a board game and a card game that we have that was at like Ollie's or something for like $4. And I picked it up. I was like, ooh, I'm getting that. And I have not had anybody play it. That's cool.
Drake got Kurt Angle to sign his wrestling card. Awesome.
with that said, kind of wrapping up, get out there and play a board game.
That's right.
Find somebody making a cool game. I think there's another guy, Toy Dom, who has like a game where he plays with his figures.
I
I
got to
don't know if
share
it's a
this
formal.
I got to share this story real quick while I'm thinking
Yeah.
about the board games. So, like a year ago, my son moved in with me, and you all know Luke. And every once in a while, we
Who?
play trivia. We play Trivial Pursuit. Trivial Pursuit was an awesome game, right? Now I have a 1984 edition, right? So like some of the questions are just so out there, like you don't even talk about some of these things that they ask questions about anymore, right? Because they're just, it's just so funny. But he's smart, so he knows a lot of the answers. But it's fun to play the Trivial Pursuit because you got a game and you also get to learn things that you didn't know.
I always sucked at that game as a kid. I always sucked at it so bad. My one buddy like knew all the answers, and like we would ask him them, and then like we'd be like doing like heads up where like it was just flip the card, and like
Yeah.
we would compete against each other, and like he would win every time. And I just didn't know any of it.
My mom's extended family, right? All my aunts and uncles. When Trivial Pursuit was a really popular game, they had like 3 or 4 or 5 different versions of it, and
Oh yeah.
like Christmas, we'd have dinner, do all the gift stuff, and then after that, they break out the Trivial Pursuit game, and it'd be teams of 2 people on each team, right? And they'd use every single one of the little round pie things, and they would play for hours. And they had all these rules, like if it was an easy question, it was called the Barney, and you didn't get a pie. It was called the Barney because one of the questions was, who was Fred Flintstone's best friend, right? And it was Barney
Oh
Rubble,
goodness.
of course, was an easy question, right? So all the easy
Yeah.
questions became the Barney, and like they had all these rules on. I mean, their own rule book on this game. It was amazing to watch, And me and my cousins and my brother would just sit there and watch them play, and they'd get, oh, that was such a stupid question. I got it right. Well, you didn't say the last name, but you knew who I was talking about. You got to say the full
Right.
answer, And they had like Jeopardy rules, where like you had to say the exact name. It couldn't be, Jeff
Yep.
Smith, if it was Jeff Smythe, right? It had to be, said the right way. It was
Yep.
like, wow. It's like, wow.
Absolutely.
Take it down a notch, guys. You don't have to have a fist fight over the Trivial Pursuit game.
That's awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up the main topic here. I think we covered most of it in there.
Yeah,
Next
absolutely.
week, we got a special topic. I'll bring up that slide here. Showcasing your collection next Tuesday, 4/15, so April 15th, tax day, 9:05 p.m. Right before I finish up my taxes, we'll go ahead and showcase your collection. That's going to be
next
highlighting.
week when you're watching, if you see Travis doing this, he's filing his taxes while he's doing the live stream.
We'll be going over how you display your toys, whether you just in box, on card, things like that. I do have a request of those from the community that is following. If you follow us, go on to the Instagram for the ToyLeet Takeover Instagram, right? And then just go out there and tag us and send us some pictures this week that we can show on the show next week of how you display your stuff today. We'll highlight, we'll talk about that. We'll criticize the crap out of your stuff that you leave in the box.
We'll make fun of you for sure.
Breathe.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about how people showcase their collection, and that's what we focus on. There might be some talks about how you could improve the way you showcase your collection on a cool 6-sided shaped stand that's stackable, interlockable, and storage in them. But I mean, who am I?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I know who you are. You're Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, there was what was it? Hold on a second. Where are you going to be this week, Ed?
All over the YouTubes like usual. I'll be, hanging out with Punk and then hanging out with Rad Now on Fridays. I'll be on the Clubhouse Saturday night, hanging out with the Hella Dope Boys on Sunday. Back here on Tuesday. Next week, Friday, the 18th, I will be on with Dre the Geek Dad and Dave's Dimension on their show. I'll get a link from them guys and post it on my Instagrams. And then I'll be over on Instagram, popping up pictures and doing the stuff. And this week, Friday, I'll be on Punk's Pit for anybody that's a channel member of A Punk with Toys.
Cool. Awesome. That'll be good. That'll be good. I was trying to find one of these things. Oh, here it is. And that one. So there's your update, son of a gun, Kenzo. Going full circle, buddy. I was looking for that one. So, yes. Tune in next week. We will definitely be talking Hexastack and how you can update your collection, showcasing them. A little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer.
Upgrade it.
Stacks on stacks on stacks.
That's right.
How we work it. So that said, I will be busy in the dungeon this week, so I probably won't be on too many streams, but I'll be listening in and paying attention, trying to catch up on those. I'll definitely be checking some things out this week as I need entertainment while I'm working in the dungeon. So if anybody has anything, tag me in it, as I will definitely check it out. I will definitely check out that video you posted previously in the chat there.
Brian, thank you again.
Brian, thank
definitely
you.
Want to check out the
that.
Crossbones and all about the Pirates and the Cowboys, man. They don't have enough love in the 1/12 scale world.
No, not at all. Awesome. So with that said, you know how it goes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Click the like, share this sometime. Pay attention because the ToyLeet network is going to increase the productivity and different things that we have on the channel. But most of all, until next week, stay wonderful. Oop. There it is. Stay wonderful.
Button.
Hang out now, but remember this. Let your toys breathe. Do this. Toys on the desk, it's the new habitat. ToyLeet Takeover, we're loving that. It's a stack high in the air where it's at. Everywhere's a playground for Mr. Wonderful. In the office, living room, let them breathe. Action takes it the trail through the mud and undersell. It's the ToyLeet life. Beyond the shelf we prepare. Figures and cents in perfect place. With Hexastack we own the space. From battle seeds to epic quests, our collection's always at its best. Hexastack high in the air where it's at. Everywhere's a playground for Mr. Wonderful. In the office, living room, let them breathe. Action fix it, the trail through the mud and undersell. It's a ToyLeet life. Beyond the shelf we prepare. So like, subscribe, and join our crew. Check us on Instagram, we've got news for you. Back the stack, it's where dreams come true. ToyLeet Takeover, we're here for you. Thanks for tuning in, feel the vibe. Toys in our world come alive. Next week, same time, don't miss the ride. With ToyLeet Takeover, the fun's worldwide. Gonna take over, stay in the flow. We'll see you next week, hope you enjoy.